Hello and welcome. About 50 years ago, a report came out that sparked a massive debate all over the world. It was a warning, really, one that's just as crucial today as it was back then. And today, we're going to unpack the story behind that very report, the limits to growth.
So let's kick things off with a really straightforward question. Our planet, right? The Earth. It's finite. There's only so much of it. So the question is, can we really have endless, unlimited growth on a limited planet? Can that just go on forever?
All right, to really get to the bottom of this question, we need to travel back in time. Let's go straight to the 1970s. This was an era, when it really felt like there were absolutely no limits to human progress.
So the story really kicks off in 1968. A group of the world's leading thinkers, scientists, and business leaders. They all got together and formed a group called the Club of Rome. And they were all wrestling with the same big worry. Is the incredible pace of our progress actually setting us up for a dangerous future?
And to find an answer to this really serious question, they turned to scientists at the world-renowned MIT and gave them a challenge. They said, build a computer model that can simulate the entire world system and, try to predict the future.
So what did the scientists do? They built this groundbreaking computer model that tracked 5 key variables. First, the world's growing population. Second, industrial production coming out of factories. Third, the food we get from agriculture. Fourth, all the non-renewable resources we pull from the earth, things like oil and coal. And finally, the pollution that all this activity creates. The model's whole purpose was to see how these 5 things would interact with and influence one another over time.
And really the core idea behind the whole model was incredibly simple. In a finite world where everything has a boundary, you just can't keep growing everything forever. It's basic logic, right? Sooner or later, you're bound to hit a limit. So what did the computer actually spit out? Well, it painted a picture of the future that was, to put it mildly, shocking. Let's take a look at what it predicted. Okay, this graph you're looking at now, this is the heart of the whole report. It's called the standard run. And what it shows is a business-as-usual scenario. Basically, what would happen if humanity just kept doing exactly what it was doing back in 1972 without making any major changes. The model's first major prediction was about resources. It said that our planet's non-renewable resources, things like oil, natural gas, and key minerals, would start to deplete, and fast.
Second, it predicted that the human population would grow so rapidly that food production simply wouldn't be able to keep up. A point would come where there are just too many people and not enough food to go around. And the third finding, which was maybe the most alarming, was about pollution. It projected that pollution would rise to a point where it becomes uncontrollable, wreaking havoc on everything from our farms to our own health.
The model warned that all of this could happen within the next 100 years. And the result? A sudden and steep decline in both population and industrial capacity. To put it bluntly, a global collapse.
You can imagine, the moment this report was published, it caused an absolute uproar. The world was instantly split into 2 camps. On one side, you had people who took this warning very, very seriously. And on the other, people who dismissed it all as just doomsday fear-mongering. This was the great debate between the resource pessimists who believed that, yes, our planet's resources are finite, and the resource optimists who had immense faith in human ingenuity, technology, and our ability to innovate our way out of any problem. The optimists argued that the computer model completely forgot to factor in humanity's greatest superpower, our ability to invent. They pointed out that the model basically ignored technological progress, the power of the market's price system, and our knack for discovering new resources. And you know what? They had a point. For instance, the model predicted that the world population would hit 7 billion by the year 2000. In reality, it was actually 6 billion. So yeah, the predictions weren't perfectly accurate.
The critics' biggest argument was that whenever humanity approaches a limit, we invent new technologies to push right past it. It's that old saying, right? Necessity is the mother of invention.
They also explained how the market system automatically solves these problems. Think about it. When a resource becomes scarce, its price goes up. That higher price makes people use less of it. It pushes companies to find substitutes, and it encourages the search for new sources. The market, in theory, balances scarcity all by itself. So, does all this mean that the limits to growth report was just completely wrong and useless? Not at all. Far from it. Despite its flaws, the report had such a profound impact that it literally changed the way the world thinks. I mean, get this, the report sold over 10 million copies in more than 30 languages. For the very first time, it brought the conversation about the link between development and the environment into the mainstream.
It was the first real wake-up call to the world about the potential dangers of just endless growth. It sparked environmental movements across the globe, and maybe most importantly, it laid the groundwork for a brand new idea: sustainable development.
And what is sustainable development? Well, it's the idea that we should meet our needs today, but in a way that doesn't compromise the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And that entire concept came straight out of the warning issued by the Limits to Growth.
So, now, more than 50 years after the report was published, we want to leave you with a question. When you look at the world today, who do you think is winning this debate? The pessimists or the optimists? It's definitely something to think about. Until next time, goodbye.